Welcome to Mike for Men with your host, Mike Huey. Mike shares real talks for real men who want to make a real impact. In today's episode, Mike gives steps to either create helpful habits or stop harmful addictions. And now, your host, Mike Huey.
I have overcome a lot of habits and I have started some awesome habits. Today I want to be sharing with you how to do that, how to stop things that are holding you back, and how to launch into habits that can really take you to the next level. A lot of books are written about goal setting and things that you can do to achieve more, but the reality is there's actually two parts to taking your life to the next level. First, absolutely you need to have goals. You need to know where you're going. But the second is you have to have systems in place that you are able to do things, successful things, whatever it is, towards your goal without having to think about it. If you can do that without having to think about it, that's called a habit. Otherwise, it's self-discipline. And so today we're going to be sharing with you some different ideas about how to establish habits. Conversely, these same things will help you if you're struggling with addictions and things that are holding you back. First of all, if you need professional help, I want to encourage you to go get professional help. In addition to that, you will get some tips and ideas here that can really help you stop some habits. I've used them. I've overcome some horrific habits and addictions, and I'm telling you, they can work for you also. So the first point, though, to realize with habits is you don't have to radically change everything about your life. All you have to do is keep moving 1% better a day or 1% better a week and just gradually make incremental increases. And by the end of a year, you're going to notice your habits are taking you to a next level. It's a lot like a child growing up. When a child is maybe 7 or 8, they eat food, they go. You don't really see that they're growing until the pants start getting shorter and climbing up their shins, right? Or their shoes get smaller. The reality is we don't really see growth, but they're establishing new habits. So these principles are the way we're actually designed to grow. So just think to yourself, I don't have to change absolutely everything. I just need to keep changing one thing at a time, get my systems, my internal systems, my heart, my mind, my daily activities moving in the right direction so that I can start more and more doing things without having to think about it. So first of all, there's 4 parts to creating a habit. So we're going to be talking about all of these, the 4 parts, okay? And what will happen is if you adjust one of those parts, it helps you towards either breaking a habit or creating it. If you can adjust 2 of them, they compound on each other and they make it easier. If you can use 3 or all 4, the compounding effect is miraculous. And what a habit is cycling through these 4 things I'm going to be talking about over and over and over, faster and faster. So the first one that we're going to look at is called a cue. A cue, and that's what it is that when you see something or you hear something, man, that triggers you, and now you have to go do either the destructive habit or it triggers you to launch into your constructive habit. So the easy thing to do if you've got a destructive habit is make things invisible. Make things invisible. So, for instance, a classic one for Alcoholics Anonymous and people struggling with alcoholism is don't go to the bar. Flush all the alcohol down the toilet. Get rid of the liquor cabinet. And so now when you're at home, you don't see that trigger. You don't see that cue. You're not at the bar. You're not seeing it. Conversely, if you're trying to create a positive habit, make things visible. So one of the things I did, like I wanted to play the drums like there was, for years I wanted to play the drums. High school marching band, I played trumpet. All my buddies were in the band section, and I was always tapping on everything. Drove my family nuts because I just loved tapping on things and rhythm and stuff like that. Finally, my wife says to me, this is about 10 years ago, Mike, if you want to play the drums, then get lessons and start playing the drums. Otherwise, stop all this tapping stuff. So I went to get lessons. Anytime you're starting something new, it's hard to say, okay, I have to practice a half hour a day, or I have to practice an hour a day, or whatever that is. But what I did is I took my drumsticks, because the drums were downstairs in the basement, invisible, right? What I did is I took my drumsticks and I put them on my chair at the dinner table, so that I had to, every time I sat down for dinner, I saw them. They were there. I'd put them to the side. I'd eat dinner. They're visible. I grab the drumsticks. I run downstairs. I play the drums. When I'm done, I reset that cue. So instead of just leaving my drumsticks down there, I'd take my drumsticks back up, put it on the chair, boom. And so that is a way of making a constructive habit visible. If you can't do the whole thing, take something to add to it so that you're cued up. I need to do this. Marketers are constantly trying to make things visible to us. Social media, constantly trying to make things visible to us. In fact, now with social media, 10 years ago, social media wasn't nearly as audio and video heavy, right? It was text and it was maybe an update. Now we've got video, so that we're both seeing and hearing cues. And I want to encourage you, take control of the cues that are in your life. And so whether that's social media, whether it's marketing, whether it's however you receive information from you, try to turn off those alerts, those things that are constantly pulling you to different directions, and start controlling what your cues are in life. Control your environment. When you can control your environment, it's a lot easier to have some great habits. People look at people with great habits and go, wow, they've got such unbelievable self-discipline. Well, self-discipline is different than habits. What they have done is they have great control of their environment. They're controlling their cues. And so that they're able to start doing things without having to think about it. That's what makes them so successful. That's the first item of the 4 is the cue. The second is your craving. Okay, obviously you see something, you want it. Your self-discipline says no, 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 no. And yet you're still craving it, right? Because you're thinking so much about it. Craving. So the aspect here is, if it's a destructive habit, make that craving distasteful or ugly. And if it is a habit you're trying to create, make it appealing, sweet, attractive, all that kind of stuff. So some examples is, one of the ways to make something attractive is to join a community, right? If you want to start working out, go to the gym and have a workout buddy. That makes it attractive. It makes it fun. It does something, versus all by myself. You're thinking, oh my goodness, I got to put on my shoes. I got to do all the stuff. And so you're making it in your mind less attractive. On the ugly side, you can do things to whatever that is you're trying to stop, and make it ugly, unattractive, unappealing. You know, when you if you had an addiction to porn, do research on what those people's lives are actually like, what they are, and you start finding out, oh my goodness, these girls, some of them are being sex trafficked, some of them it's prostitution, all this stuff. Make it unappealing. Make it realize the negativity to whatever it is that's appealing to you. So that's the craving. If you're really struggling to say, man, I've got this, I need to start doing this one thing, but I don't want to. I can't figure out how to make it craving. Another strategy is to bundle it with something that is attractive. This is the old adage thing where people have got a workout bike, or they've got their treadmill, and in front of them is a television or a movie that they're watching. So they want to watch this thing. They're bundling the workout with something that is attractive to them, that movie or whatever it is they're trying to watch, television. So if you can't make the item beautiful or attractive in itself, bundle it with something that is. So the first one is the cue. The second one is the craving. The third one is the response. If you're battling alcoholism, and maybe you've put the bottles away, or you've taken them away, maybe you've figured out a way to make it unattractive, such as you have to talk to your AA buddy and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, and you don't want to go through the pain or the effort of hearing this buddy say, dude, straighten up, right? You've done the first two, but you've made it really easy to grab that beer or that liquor all of a sudden you're really hurting yourself, right? So the ways to stop unattractive or destructive habits is to make that response much more difficult, whether it's difficult in itself or you're adding multiple tasks to it to be able to accomplish it. Conversely, if you want to start a new habit, make the responses easier to do with less steps. So if you have 3, 4, 5 steps to have to go do something, it's going to slow you down before you actually get to that point. Okay, so for instance, if you could also say, I want to start running. Now, I'm not sure you should. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I was a competitive runner. Loved it, did a lot of stuff, got gold medals in some races, had a fun time. However, my knee started giving out. So that's maybe another talk. And I was talking to my doctor just last week saying, I think I should get back into running. She goes, yeah, you can do that. And then I'll see you this fall with knee injury problems. So I was like, all right. But let's use that example. If you wanted to start running or you wanted to start speed walking or biking or something, an easier way, and you want to say, I want to get to the point where I can run a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, a full marathon, something like that. One of the things to do is, instead of having to start out with this huge task, first step is have the tennis shoes by the door. So that's your cue. Make it very attractive. Have nice workout outfit, whatever that is. And third, put the shoes on, and your first step might be just to run 2 blocks and come back. Very simple. It's not going to take a whole afternoon for you to start training. But when you get to the point where you are running 10 miles, that does take all afternoon, right? So you're just starting with little, small, easy tasks. That's the way to make a response easier, is less steps or easier to accomplish. The fourth area, so we've talked about the cue, we've talked about craving, we've talked about responses. The fourth thing to keep in mind with habit creation is rewards. So you can either make it really rewarding if it's something you're trying to accomplish, or unrewarding if it's not. So make it satisfying or unrewarding. Very simple. So we've talked about the first 3 aspects of habit creation. We've talked about the cue, we've talked about the craving, we've talked about the response. The fourth aspect or part of a habit is the reward. Make it either highly rewarding and satisfying if it's a habit that you want to create and start. Make it unsatisfying and demotivating if it's a habit you're trying to end. The struggle with habits is often harmful habits are highly rewarding at the front end and they are unsatisfying later. So if I was to use the example of credit card debt, a lot of young people go into credit card debt fast, quick, and easy because, one, it's easy, right? They see the cues. The cue came because in the mail or on the email, or at college we saw that we could get a credit card. We started thinking about the stuff we could have with that $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 credit limit. And it was really easy to do. We start swiping it, right? And the reward is, oh my goodness, I got this and I got that. I got this item and I got this. However, later the compounding effect of interest catches up to us, and then we go, OMG, I'm so in debt with credit cards, I'm out of control. So that's the struggle with unsatisfying, or I should say destructive habits. They're usually very rewarding at the front end and very harmful on the back end. Conversely, helpful habits often are the opposite. If you wanted to say, hey, I'm going to have to save money to buy that stinks. I'm going to have to wait and have cash. But then later in life, we get to buy it with cash. We're not in debt. We have good. And the reward is often later. At the front end, we're investing our money. At the back end, we are enjoying the rewards of money. If we were destructive, we're spending all our money right away. And then later in life, we have nothing. So again, it's a difficult thing to do, so let me address some of that. If it's a helpful habit you're trying to create, the simple thing is to move the rewards earlier into time. Move the rewards earlier into time. So that could be something like tracking your habits. Or like for what we do is every quarter I run my balance sheet and I see where I'm at, because when you keep saving and investing, you don't really get to see much of it. But when you all of a sudden, instead of waiting years down the road for me to be financially independent and receive the benefits of it, every quarter I pull out my balance sheet and I run the balance sheet and I compare it to how I did last quarter and the year in the past. So that way I'm seeing, oh, my net worth is growing. My net worth is growing. Oh my goodness, my net worth is growing this much. I'm going to see this next quarter if I can make a game of it, make it rewarding, make a game of it, and say, hey, I'm going to see if I can push it and get my net worth up to this level. You could do the same with your income statement, right? How can you start decreasing the expenses in your life and increase the income in your life, starting moonlighting a job, different things like that. So that's a way to start working with helpful habits. Move the reward earlier into time. Now, a lot of times what people will do is they also are rewarding themselves when they accomplish something. Awesome. That's a great way to reward yourself earlier in time. However, what I want to encourage you to do is not reward yourself with the very negative aspect you're trying to stop. So for instance, if you are trying to lose weight, I encourage you, when you hit your goal weight, don't reward yourself with ice cream, right? Reward yourself maybe with going to an awesome restaurant that has healthy food, and you're rewarding yourself with great steak or great salads or whatever it is you're doing. That's a great reward. Going to ice cream is counterproductive to the habit you're trying to create. So the same thing is true with finances. If you do something and you accomplish it, I want to encourage you to reward yourself with something that's consistent with you continuing on this habit. Okay? Don't get frustrated with setbacks. That's a major thing I notice with people. They'll get on a weight loss program, they lose it, they had a binge for a weekend, and they just say, it's not for me. Or I'm trying to get out of debt, and all of a sudden I really needed this thing. I charged something I probably shouldn't have. It's not for me. And we start talking to ourselves like that. I want to encourage you, don't get frustrated with setbacks. Do not try to be 100% perfect in your habit creation. Habit creation doesn't start by being automatic and you do it without thinking. Habit creation starts by first controlling your environment, controlling the cues, making diligent work to figure out, how can I make this unsatisfying or satisfying depending on what I'm doing? How can I make this easy? How can I make the rewards awesome? And it's working that, and you'll start noticing gradually you begin doing the positive habits without thinking about it. Sometimes you're thinking constantly about it. Then you think sometimes about it. Sometimes you're doing it without thinking. Eventually you get to the point where you're doing positive habits without even thinking about it. That has the cue to you that it has shifted from a self-discipline to a positive habit. Habits are something you do without thinking about it. You can't be 100% perfect at the start, so don't get frustrated with that. Keep working little bit. Remember, we talked about 1% a day, 1% a week, just a little bit better, Got a setback? No problem. Go back, work on it again. Build your resiliency. It's just like muscles, right? If I work out and I have resistance training, I'm building muscles. And that is what you have a setback. Well, some people just give up. They don't have resiliency in their internal muscles of the resilient muscle, right? Whatever that is in your heart or your mind. And I want to encourage you, when you have a setback, build resilience. Say, no, I'm going back. I'm going to work on it. When you miss one time, that's an event. Things happen. No problem. When you miss 2 times in a row, now that's called the start of a new habit. And it's the beginning to repeat itself automatically. So that's your cue. If you have a setback, get back on the saddle. If you have 2, step back, look at all 4 of these aspects of habit creation and figure out where you need to make some adjustments. The other thing to consider that I did a lot when I was trying to overcome some negative habits is, if I had a setback, I would say, I'm better than this. Because it counteracts the thought that comes to you that says, I'm no good at this. I might as well give up. I can't do it. Well, when you're hearing that, I want to encourage you, have a declaration. Say it with emotion. I'm better than this. I'm better than this. I'm better than this. And you will begin to get to the point where you believe it. One of the last things I want to share with you too is the compounding effect of 1% growth, right? It's just like financial investing. The same is true. If you keep growing just 1% a week, over time, over a year, you're not growing 52%. It compounds on itself, and you're pushing 100% growth difference because you have compounding effect of that little bit of growth. It makes it easier and easier. You're building on the past. You're making it better and better. And again, you will notice that you are creating positive habits when you're doing things automatically. You'll notice you've stopped a negative habit when all of a sudden maybe some of those old cues showed up. Maybe some of the old cravings showed up. Maybe a reward was flashed in front of you, and you just automatically just ignored it and said, nope, it's not for me. I'm better than this. And that's when you know you're overcoming a negative habit.
Thank you for listening to Mike for Men. If you enjoyed listening to this in a podcast, please subscribe and give us a review. If you are watching this video, please subscribe and click the bell below so you will know when the next episode comes out. If there is a topic you would like Mike or his guests to address, please write them in the comments section below. Again, thank you for listening.